Was it enough?
It was, yeah, it's hard to say. On the one hand, I wept because we were such a family.
As you know, some on-screen relationships are so powerful and so real that they transcend the television set and become something truly special in real life. For nearly a decade, millions of Americans gathered around their TV sets every Thursday night to watch a family navigate the struggles of the Great Depression together. The Waltons became more than just a show. It became a part of American culture, a comfort, a reminder of simpler times and stronger family bonds. At the heart of that beloved series were two actors who portrayed one of television's most iconic married couples. Michael Learn played Olivia Walton, the strong and nurturing mother, while Ralph Waite brought to life John Walton Sr., the hard-working and principled father. Their chemistry was undeniable. Their performances felt authentic, and for good reason. Because what happened between these two talented actors behind the scenes was something that very few people knew about for decades. Now, at 86 years old, Michael Learn has finally decided to open up about the truth of her relationship with Ralph Waite. And what she has revealed is both beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. This is a story about love, about sacrifice, about two people who shared something extraordinary but could never fully act on it. This is a story that will change the way you watch The Waltons forever. Let's go back to the beginning. When The Waltons first premiered in 1972, nobody could have predicted just how successful it would become. The show was based on the childhood experiences of creator Earl Hamner Jr., who grew up in rural Virginia during the Depression era. It was a gentle show, a family show, something that stood in stark contrast to the grittier programming that was starting to dominate television at that time. Michael Learn was not yet a household name when she was cast as Olivia Walton. She had done some theater work and had small television roles, but nothing that had really launched her into stardom. Ralph Waite, on the other hand, had a bit more experience under his belt. He had appeared in several films and TV shows, and he brought a natural gravitas to every role he played. He was a former Marine, a man who had studied for the ministry before turning to acting. There was a depth to Ralph, a seriousness, but also a warmth that made him perfect for the role of the Walton patriarch. From the very first table read, something clicked between Michael and Ralph. Other cast members noticed it immediately. There was an ease in the way they interacted, a natural rhythm to their conversations. When they performed their scene together, it didn't feel like acting. It felt like watching a real married couple navigate the joys and challenges of raising 7 children during difficult times. The show quickly became a massive hit. Families across America tuned in religiously. The Waltons offered something that people desperately needed, especially during the turbulent early 70s. It reminded viewers of values like loyalty, hard work, faith, and family. And at the center of it all were John and Olivia Walton, holding everything together with their quiet strength and unwavering love for each other. But what the audience didn't know was that the love they saw on screen wasn't entirely fictional. Michael Learn has now revealed that she and Ralph Waite developed real romantic feelings for each other. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It grew slowly, naturally, the way real love often does. They spent long hours together on set. They memorized lines together. They supported each other through difficult scenes. They celebrated successes together and comforted each other during hard times. Michael has described Ralph as one of the most intelligent, thoughtful, and caring men she had ever met. He wasn't just a talented actor. He was a deep thinker, someone who read extensively, who cared about politics and social justice, who wanted to make the world a better place. He could be serious and philosophical one moment, then crack a joke and make everyone on set laugh the next moment. Ralph, for his part, was clearly drawn to Michael's strength, her talent, and her warmth. She was beautiful, yes, but it was more than that. She had this ability to make everyone around her feel valued and important. She was a consummate professional who always knew her lines and always gave her best performance, but she never took herself too seriously. She could laugh at herself, and she genuinely cared about every single person on that set, from the stars to the crew members. As the season progressed, their feelings deepened. They began to realize that what they felt for each other went beyond friendship, beyond professional respect. There was a genuine romantic love developing between them, and this presented a serious problem. You see, both Michael Learn and Ralph Waite were married to other people during the run of the Waltons. Michael was married to her second husband, though that marriage was already experiencing difficulties. Ralph was also married, and both of them took their commitment seriously. They were not the kind of people who took marriage vows lightly or who would casually engage in an affair without considering the consequences. So they made a choice, a painful choice, but one they both felt was the right thing to do. They decided that they would not act on their feelings for each other. They would maintain appropriate boundaries. They would honor their marriages and their families. They would be close friends, supportive colleagues, but they would not cross that line into a romantic relationship. Michael has said that this was one of the most difficult decisions she ever had to make. Can you imagine going to work every day, performing love scenes with someone you have genuine feelings for, knowing that when the cameras stop rolling, you have to maintain a distance? Can you imagine the emotional toll that must have taken? But they did it. For 9 seasons. They worked together, loved each other from a respectful distance, and created television magic. Their professionalism was remarkable. Nobody on set gossiped about them or suspected that anything inappropriate was happening, because nothing inappropriate was happening. They simply shared a deep emotional connection that they chose not to fully explore. There were moments, of course, when it became almost unbearable. Michael has recalled times when they would finish a particularly emotional scene, and they would look at each other, and the feelings would be so intense that one of them would have to walk away. There were late-night conversations where they talk about their situation, about their feelings, about what might have been if circumstances had been different. Ralph was known for sometimes struggling with alcohol during this period of his life. Friends and colleagues have suggested that part of his drinking may have been related to his conflicted feelings, his unhappiness in his marriage, and his inability to pursue the relationship he wanted with Michael. He was a man of strong principles, and those principles sometimes made his life more complicated and more painful. The show ended its original run in 1981, after 9 seasons and over 200 episodes. By that time, both Michael and Ralph's marriages had ended in divorce. And here's where the story takes an interesting turn. You might think that once they were both single, they would have immediately gotten together and finally given their love a real chance. But that's not what happened. By the time they were both free, they had both changed. Years had passed. They had both been through difficult divorces and emotional upheaval. They had both moved on in some ways, even though the love and affection never really disappeared. They did spend more time together. They remained close friends for the rest of Ralph's life. But they never became a romantic couple in the traditional sense. Michael has explained that sometimes timing is everything in life. When they first fell in love, they were both married. By the time they were both free, perhaps the moment had passed. Perhaps they had built such a strong friendship that neither wanted to risk ruining it by trying to turn it into something more. Perhaps they had become so used to loving each other from a distance that they didn't know how to do it any other way. Over the years, they would reunite for various Walton's reunion movies and specials. Every time they saw each other, the connection was still there. Cast members would watch them interact and could still see the spark, the understanding, the deep affection. It was like watching two people who spoke their own private language that nobody else could fully understand. Ralph Waite passed away in February of 2014, at the age of 85. His death deeply affected Michael learned. She has said that losing Ralph felt like losing a part of herself, because in many ways, he was a true partner, even if they never had conventional relationship. They had shared something profound, something that lasted for over 40 years. At his funeral, Michael was visibly emotional. She spoke about Ralph with tremendous love and respect. She talked about his talent, his kindness, his commitment to making the world better. And even then, she held back some of the deeper truths about their relationship, perhaps feeling that it wasn't the right time or that some things were too personal to share publicly. But now, more than a decade after Ralph's death, Michael has decided to be more open about what they meant to each other. Perhaps it's because enough time has passed. Perhaps it's because she wants people to understand the depth of their connection. Perhaps it's because at 86 years old, she realizes that these stories matter, that they help us understand the complexity of love and human relationships. In recent interviews, Michael has spoken candidly about how she was in love with Ralph Waite. She has said it plainly, without embarrassment or regret. She loved him. He loved her. And they made a conscious choice to handle that love in a way that honored their other commitments and responsibilities. She doesn't see it as a tragic love story, even though there's certainly an element of sadness to it. Instead, She sees it as a testament to what two people can create when they respect each other deeply. Their restraint, their professionalism, and their mutual respect allowed them to create one of television's most believable and beloved marriages. Think about that for a moment. The reason John and Olivia Walton felt so real, the reason their relationship seemed so authentic, was because the actors portraying them had genuine love for each other. They weren't pretending. They were simply channeling their real feelings into their performances. Michael has said that every tender moment between John and Olivia, every knowing glance, every gentle touch, every word of support, came from a real place. When Olivia looked at John with love and concern, that was Michael looking at Ralph. When John held Olivia and promised that everything would be okay, that was Ralph comforting Michael. The emotions were real, even if the circumstances of the characters' lives were fictional. This revelation helps us understand why the Waltons has endured for so many decades. Yes, the writing was good. Yes, the other actors were talented. Yes, the show touched on important themes. But at its core, the Waltons worked because of the genuine connection between its two leads. Audiences could feel that authenticity, even if they couldn't articulate exactly what they were sensing. Ralph Waite once said in an interview that working with Michael Learned was like breathing. It was natural, effortless, essential. At the time, people probably thought he was just talking about their professional chemistry. Now we understand that he was revealing something much deeper. Looking back at the show with this new knowledge, certain episodes and scenes take on new meaning. There's an episode where John and Olivia have a serious conversation about their marriage, about staying connected despite all their responsibilities. The emotion in that scene is almost overwhelming. Now we know why. Those weren't just actors delivering lines. Those were two people having a real conversation about commitment and love, and choosing to do the right thing even when it's difficult. There's another episode where Olivia is sick, and John is terrified of losing her. Ralph's performance in those scenes is raw and heartbreaking. You can see the genuine fear in his eyes. That wasn't acting. That was a man contemplating what it would be like to lose a woman he loved. Michael has also revealed that Ralph was incredibly protective of her on set. If a scene was physically demanding or emotionally draining, he would check on her afterward. If someone was giving her a hard time about anything, he would step in. He looked out for her in ways that went beyond normal co-star courtesy. And she did the same for him. When Ralph was struggling with personal issues, Michael was there to support him, to encourage him, to remind him of his worth. Their relationship was, in many ways, a true partnership, even without the romantic component that typically comes with such deep feelings. They were committed to each other's well-being, to each other's success, to creating something beautiful together through their wake. It's worth noting that Michael Learn has been married 4 times in her life. She has experienced love and loss multiple times. She raised 3 daughters. She has lived a full and complex life. And yet, when she talks about the loves of her life, Ralph Waite's name comes up again and again. Not as a husband, not as a traditional romantic partner, but as a soulmate, a person who understood her in ways that few others ever did. This kind of love doesn't fit neatly into the categories we usually use. It wasn't an affair. It wasn't a friendship in the casual sense. It was something deeper, something that lasted for decades, something that influenced both of their lives profoundly. It was a love based on mutual respect, shared values, creative collaboration, and a conscious choice to do what they believed was right. Some people might wonder if they regretted their decision not to be together. Michael has addressed this directly. She has said that while there's certainly a part of her that wonders what might have been, she doesn't regret the choices they made. They honored their families. They maintained their integrity. They created something lasting through their work. And they had a relationship that, while unconventional, was meaningful and sustaining for both of them. Ralph Waite, before his death, also spoke occasionally about his time on the Waltons and his relationship with Michael, though he was typically more private about personal matters. He did say in interviews that Michael was one of the finest people he had ever known, and that working with her was one of the great privileges of his life. Those who were close to Ralph have confirmed that he carried deep feelings for Michael throughout his life. The story of Michael Learn and Ralph Waite reminds us that love is complicated, that it doesn't always follow the path we expect or want, and that sometimes the most profound connections happen in unexpected ways. It reminds us that doing the right thing often requires sacrifice. It reminds us that art can be created from deep emotion, even emotion that must be carefully controlled and channeled. It also reminds us why the Waltons continues to resonate with audiences today. In an age of cynicism and snark, the Waltons offers something genuine, and that genuineness came, in large part, from the real love between its two stars. That love infused every episode, every season, every reunion special. It's there in every good night, John Boy, and every family gathering around the dinner table. It's the foundation upon which the entire show was built. Michael Learned is now 86 years old. She has had a remarkable career, winning multiple Emmy Awards, appearing in numerous television shows and films after the Waltons ended. But she will always be remembered primarily as Olivia Walton, and she seems perfectly comfortable with that. She understands that the show touched millions of lives, and she's proud of the work she did. Her decision to finally speak openly about her feelings for Ralph Waite is a gift to fans who have loved the Waltons for decades. It helps us understand the magic we felt when we watched the show. It validates our sense that what we were seeing was real. And it tells a very human story about love, about choice, about dignity, and about the many forms that meaningful relationships can take. So if you're a fan of the Waltons, maybe it's time to go back and watch some episode with this new understanding. Pay attention to the way Michael and Ralph look at each other. Notice the tenderness in their scenes together. Feel the weight of the emotions they are bringing to their performances. It's all real, every bit of it. And if you've never watched the Waltons, this might be the perfect time to start. Yes, it's a show from another era. Yes, it's gentle and wholesome in ways that might seem old-fashioned. But it's also a show built on authentic emotion, on real human connection, on love that was powerful enough to create art but disciplined enough to respect boundaries. That's something special. That's something worth experiencing. Michael Learn's revelation about Ralph Waite isn't scandalous. It's not gossip. It's a story about two professionals who loved each other deeply, worked together beautifully, and made choices that they could live with. It's a story about integrity. And in today's world, where integrity sometimes seems in short supply, that's a story worth telling. The Waltons gave us 9 seasons of comfort, wisdom, and warmth. Now we know that at the heart of that gift was a real love story, one that never got the conventional happy ending but was meaningful and profound nonetheless. Michael Learned and Ralph Waite gave us more than we knew at the time. They gave us truth disguised as fiction, real emotion channeled into performance, and a relationship that honored both love and responsibility. That's a shocking truth Michael Learned has revealed at 86. And it's a truth that makes the Waltons even more special than we already thought it was. If this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, please hit that like button right now. Share this video with anyone who loves the Waltons or who appreciates stories about real love and real integrity. And make sure to subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss another story about the actors and shows that shaped television history. Leave a comment below telling us about your favorite Waltons memory or what you think about Michael and Ralph's story. Thanks for watching, and remember, good night everyone.